I refused to cover for my brother's affair, and now he's threatening to ruin my life. Okay, so here's the deal. I never thought my life would turn into some kind of trashy soap opera, but here we are. My older brother has been my hero since we were kids, always looking out for me, always having my back. But now, he's practically begging me to lie for him, and when I said no, he flipped. And I mean really flipped. Now he's threatening to spill a secret I've been keeping for years, one that could completely wreck everything I've worked for. I honestly don't know what to do, and I need to tell someone about this mess. For context, my brother Ryan is 6 years older than me. Growing up, he was the golden child, athletic, smart, charming. Everyone loved him, and honestly, so did I. He was the type of big brother who'd help me sneak out to see my friends or cover for me when I bombed a test. We've always had this unspoken rule, family first. No matter what, we'd have each other's backs. Fast forward to now. Ryan's married to Emily, a genuinely sweet woman who doesn't deserve the crap he's putting her through. They've been together for about 8 years, married for 3, and on the surface, they seem like the perfect couple. But beneath all that, let's just say Ryan hasn't exactly been faithful. I found out about his affair a couple of months ago. He didn't even try to hide it. He flat out told me during one of our bro talks over beers. I remember just sitting there, stunned, as he casually admitted to hooking up with a coworker. I couldn't believe it. This was Ryan, the guy who taught me how to treat women with respect, the guy who always lectured me about honesty. When I asked him why he was doing this, he shrugged and said, "Things have been rough with Emily. This is just an escape." An escape. Like his marriage was some prison and cheating was the key to freedom. I wanted to yell at him right then and there, but instead, I just sat there like an idiot, trying to process it all. I told myself I'd stay out of it. It wasn't my relationship. And as much as I hated what Ryan was doing, I didn't feel like it was my place to interfere. I figured, hey, this is his mess to clean up. I'm just his brother, not his therapist. That worked until last week. Ryan called me up, sounding frantic. He said Emily was starting to get suspicious and that she'd been asking questions about where he was going after work. Apparently, she even checked his phone and found some vague but sketchy messages from his coworker. He claimed he managed to smooth things over, but Emily wasn't fully convinced. Then he dropped the bomb. "I need you to cover for me." At first, I thought I misheard him. "Cover for what?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. He wanted me to say he'd been with me whenever he was sneaking around with this other woman. He even had this whole plan mapped out. Fake text messages, fake alibis, even backup stories in case Emily started digging. He acted like this was some kind of heist, and I was his accomplice. "Ryan, are you serious?" I asked, hoping he'd realize how insane this was. But he just doubled down, saying, "Come on, man, you're my brother. I'd do the same for you." That's when I snapped. "No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't lie to my girlfriend and help me cheat, Ryan. You're asking me to betray Emily for you. Do you even hear yourself?" He went quiet for a second, then hit me with the guilt trip. "Look, I know it's messed up, but I'm not asking you to like it. I'm asking you to help me. Family first, right?" Family first. The same phrase he'd used to justify every stupid favor he'd ever asked of me. But this time, it wasn't just a little white lie or a harmless prank. This was serious. I told Ryan I needed time to think, but honestly, my answer was already a hard no. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Emily didn't deserve this. She's been nothing but kind to me, always inviting me over for dinner, checking in when I was going through a rough patch, even helping me with job stuff when I was struggling. The thought of lying to her face made me feel sick. The next day, Ryan showed up at my apartment unannounced. He looked stressed, pacing back and forth in my living room like a caged animal. "So, have you thought about it?" he asked, not even bothering with a hello. "Yeah, I have," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And the answer's no, I'm not getting involved." He stopped pacing and stared at me like I'd just slapped him. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, I'm not going to lie for you, Ryan. This isn't some harmless little favor. You're screwing up your marriage and you want me to help you cover it up? That's not fair." His face turned red, and I could tell he was about to lose it. "Not fair? Seriously? After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" "Everything you've done for me," I shot back. "You mean like being a decent brother? That doesn't give you a free pass to drag me into your mess." Ryan started throwing every guilt trip in the book at me. He brought up the times he'd bailed me out of trouble, the times he'd lent me money, even the time he helped me move when no one else would. But none of it changed my mind. This wasn't about payback or loyalty. This was about right and wrong, and I wasn't about to compromise my morals just because he was my brother. When he realized he wasn't getting anywhere, he dropped the guilt act and went straight for the threats. "Fine," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "If you're not going to help me, then maybe Emily deserves to know about that little secret you've been keeping. You know, the one that could ruin your life?" My stomach dropped. I knew exactly what Ryan was talking about, and he knew it too. A few years ago, during a really dark time in my life, I made some decisions I wasn't proud of. Nothing illegal, but definitely things I'd rather keep buried. Ryan was the only one I'd ever told, mostly because I trusted him. Back then, he promised it would stay between us. Now he was dangling it over my head like a weapon. "Ryan, you wouldn't," I said, though my voice cracked, betraying my confidence. "Wouldn't I?" he shot back, crossing his arms. "You don't think Emily would be interested in hearing about the time her sweet, innocent brother-in-law nearly lost his job over questionable behavior? Or how about your boss? You think he'd be as understanding?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own brother, the guy who used to chase off bullies for me in middle school, was threatening to wreck my life because I refused to cover for his infidelity. It felt surreal, like I was watching some twisted drama unfold, and I was the clueless protagonist. "You're really going to blackmail me over this?" I asked, hoping he'd realize how far he was crossing the line. Ryan shrugged, his expression cold. "I don't want to, but you're not leaving me much of a choice. If you just help me out, I won't have to say anything. Simple as that." The room felt like it was closing in on me. Part of me wanted to cave, to give him what he wanted just to keep my secret safe. But the other part, the part that still believed in doing the right thing, knew that if I gave in, I'd never forgive myself. And who's to say Ryan wouldn't use this against me again in the future? I had to make a decision, and I had to make it fast. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm raging in my head. This wasn't just about Ryan or me anymore. If I gave in, I'd be enabling him to keep hurting Emily. And if I didn't, he'd try to destroy me. Either way, it felt like I was trapped. "Go ahead," I said finally, crossing my arms. My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. "Tell Emily, tell my boss, tell whoever you want. If you think ruining my life is going to fix your marriage, then go for it." Ryan's jaw dropped. He clearly wasn't expecting that response. For a second, I thought he might back down, but instead, his expression hardened. "You're serious?" he asked, his tone full of disbelief. "Yeah, I am," I said. "Because at least I'll be able to live with myself. Can you say the same?" The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan just stood there, staring at me, like he was trying to decide whether to call my bluff. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I forced myself to hold his gaze. I wasn't bluffing. I meant every word. Finally, he threw his hands up in frustration. "You're unbelievable," he muttered, turning toward the door. "You think you're better than me? Fine, have it your way. But don't come crying to me when everything falls apart." And with that, he slammed the door behind him, leaving me alone in my tiny apartment with nothing but the sound of my own breathing and the sinking realization of what had just happened. The next few days were tense. I couldn't focus on anything: work, friends, even my favorite shows. I was constantly checking my phone, half expecting to see some catastrophic text or call. Every notification made my heart race. Would Ryan actually go through with his threat? Or was he just bluffing? Then, it happened. Emily called me. Seeing her name pop up on my screen was like a punch to the gut. My first thought was, he told her. My hands were shaking as I picked up the call, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey, Emily," I said, forcing a casual tone. "Hey," she replied, sounding unusually upbeat. "Ryan said you two had a fight. Is everything okay?" I froze. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, we had a disagreement," I said cautiously. "Why? Did he say something?" "No, not really. He's been in a mood, but that's not new," she said with a laugh. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay. You know how he gets sometimes." Her words hit me like a truck. She had no idea what was really going on. Ryan hadn't told her anything. Not about the fight, not about the affair, nothing. He was playing it cool, acting like everything was fine. I wanted to tell her the truth so badly. It felt like she was giving me an out, a chance to come clean. But at the same time, I didn't want to be the one to shatter her world. It wasn't my place. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. "Yeah, I'm fine," I lied. "Thanks for checking in." "No problem," she said. "You're family, and we care about you. Don't let Ryan get to you, okay?" Her kindness made me feel even worse. I hung up the call feeling more conflicted than ever. Ryan was skating by unscathed, while I was stuck in this moral limbo, wondering if I'd made the right call. A couple of days later, I got a text from Ryan. It was short, but it sent chills down my spine. "We need to talk." Now I ignored it at first. I wasn't ready to deal with him again. But then he started blowing up my phone. Calls, more texts, even a voicemail where he said, "If you think this is over, you're dead wrong." I couldn't avoid him forever, so I finally caved and agreed to meet at a neutral spot, a coffee shop downtown where I figured he'd be less likely to cause a scene. When I got there, he was already waiting, arms crossed, his face set in a scowl. "You've got some nerve," he said as soon as I sat down. "Ryan, I'm not doing this again," I said, cutting him off. "If you're here to guilt-trip me or throw more threats around, save it." "Oh, I'm not threatening you," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I'm just letting you know that if you don't want to help me, fine, but don't think I'm going down alone." "What does that even mean?" I asked, already regretting coming. "It means I told Emily you've been hiding something from her, something big. I didn't go into details yet, but she knows you're not as squeaky clean as you pretend to be." I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. "You did what?" I hissed, trying to keep my voice down. "Relax," he said with a smirk. "I didn't tell her anything specific, just enough to make her curious. She'll come to you sooner or later, and when she does, maybe you'll finally realize how serious I am." I stared at him, speechless. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about control. Ryan didn't care who he hurt, as long as he got what he wanted. "You're disgusting," I said finally, standing up. "If this is the kind of person you've become, then I don't want anything to do with you." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't have a choice, little brother. Family first, remember?" I walked out, my mind racing. Ryan had crossed every line, and now he was dragging me into the quicksand with him. I needed to figure out what to do before this spiraled even further out of control. It didn't take long for Emily to reach out. She texted me the next evening, asking if I could meet her for coffee. My gut told me this wasn't going to be a casual chat, but I agreed. If Ryan had already planted seeds of doubt, I owed her the truth, or at least my version of it. When I walked into the cafe, Emily was already sitting at a corner table. She looked tense. Her usual warm smile was gone, replaced by a furrowed brow and a slight fidget with her coffee cup. I sat down across from her, trying to keep my own nerves in check. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." Here it was, the moment I'd been dreading. "Of course," I said, bracing myself. "Ryan said you've been keeping something from me. He wouldn't tell me what, but he made it sound serious." She paused, searching my face. "I just want to know if it's true. Are you hiding something? And does it have anything to do with him?" I felt a lump in my throat. There it was, an opening to spill everything, to tell her about Ryan's affair, his threats, all of it. But saying it out loud felt like crossing a line I wasn't sure I was ready for. Still, I couldn't lie to her, not completely. "Emily, I don't know what Ryan told you," I began, choosing my words carefully. "But he's been going through some stuff lately, and I think he's trying to deflect. I'm not hiding anything that would hurt you. That's all I can say." Her eyes narrowed. "That's all you can say? That's not exactly reassuring." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Look, I don't want to put you in a worse position, but if you're asking me whether you should trust Ryan right now, I think you already know the answer." Her face fell, and for a moment I thought she might start crying, but then she straightened up, her expression hardening. "Thank you for being honest," she said, standing up. "I think I have a lot to think about." Before I could respond, she was gone, leaving me sitting there with a cold coffee and a sinking feeling that things were about to get even messier. A few days later, it all came crashing down. Emily must have confronted Ryan after our conversation, because I got a furious call from him that night. "You're unbelievable," he snapped as soon as I answered. "You just couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you?" "What are you talking about?" I asked, though I already had a pretty good idea. Emily's been grilling me nonstop. She's accusing me of cheating, of lying to her, and she says you made her suspicious. Do you even realize what you've done? Ryan, I said, my voice calm but firm, you did this to yourself. Don't pin it on me. I didn't even tell her about the affair. I just told her to trust her instincts. Oh, so now you're a saint, he sneered. You think you're better than me? You think you're the moral high ground in all this? Newsflash, little brother, your secrets aren't so squeaky clean either. I don't care anymore, I shot back, surprising even myself. If you want to blow up my life, go ahead. At least I won't have to live with the guilt of enabling you. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Ryan said, you know what? Screw you. We're done. Don't call me, don't text me, don't come to me for anything. You're not my brother anymore. He hung up before I could respond, and for a moment, I just sat there, staring at my phone. Part of me felt relieved. It was like I'd finally cut the cord that had been holding me hostage. But another part of me felt sick. This was Ryan, my brother. No matter how messed up he was, I never imagined it would come to this. In the weeks that followed, my life felt like a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. On one hand, I didn't have to carry the weight of Ryan's secrets anymore. On the other, I couldn't shake the sadness of knowing I'd lost my brother, at least the version of him I used to admire. For the first week or two, I kept replaying our last conversation in my head. I wondered if I'd been too harsh, if there was something I could have said or done differently, but every time I started down that rabbit hole, I reminded myself that this wasn't on me. Ryan had made his choices, and I couldn't save him from himself. Then Emily called me. Her voice was calm, but there was a weariness beneath it that made my heart ache. I confronted Ryan, she said, getting straight to the point. At first, he tried to deny everything. He even said you were lying to drive a wedge between us. I sighed, leaning back in my chair. That sounds like him. But I didn't believe him, she continued. I've known for a while that something wasn't right. Your conversation with me just confirmed it. So, I kept pushing, and eventually he admitted to the affair. All of it. There was a pause, and I could hear the weight of her words sinking in. Emily, I'm so sorry, I said softly. You don't deserve any of this. Looking back, I don't regret my decision. It wasn't easy, and it cost me my relationship with Ryan, but sometimes doing the right thing comes with consequences. I learned that family loyalty doesn't mean turning a blind eye to someone's wrongdoings. It means holding them accountable, even when it's painful. If you're in a similar situation, whether it's with family, friends, or anyone you care about, remember this. Standing up for your values is never the wrong choice, no matter how hard it feels in the moment. You might lose something, but you'll gain something more important. Self-respect. Have you ever had to make a tough choice between loyalty and integrity? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you handled it. And if you're struggling with a decision like this now, just know you're not alone.